Studios everywhere were clamoring to seduce the golden boy into signing up for their next project, and, though their prospects were modest, the starry-eyed producers of American Psycho were no different. On a lark, Lionsgate, the company that owned the project, sent a copy of the script and a $20 million offer to Leonardo DiCaprio. This, of course, was unbeknown to American Psycho director Mary Harron. The creator of I Shot Andy Warhol, and a rock critic at The Guardian in the early 80s, had been working for months on this black comedy about an 80s Wall Street serial killer, scripting a number of drafts with writing partner Guinevere Turner, Go Fish, and deciding, after an exhaustive search, to place British actor Christian Bale, Velvet Goldmine, in the lead role. When I offered him the part, the 46-year-old Harron recalls, he said he had all these messages on his answering machine telling him this was career suicide. We had a huge battle over it, Harron says. Most of the time they don't care if the cast is appropriate or not, and movies have sunk like that. Despite the urgings of the project's producer Ed Pressman, Harron, allied with Bale, refused to meet with the film's new star. DiCaprio's fans were barely old enough to read in 1991, when writer Bret Easton Ellis shocked the literary world with American Psycho. A succession of scripts followed, and various directors and stars would ultimately flirt with the project. At the same time, the mere idea of one of Hollywood's highest-paid actors starring in a would-be slasher film provoked a maelstrom of protest from activists, feminist icon Gloria Steinem prominent among them. It certainly didn't help Lionsgate that their one strong female voice, the stalwart Harron, was unceremoniously bumped from the project. Basically, as soon as I said I didn't want to compromise my position, Lionsgate wanted me out, she says. Soon after, DiCaprio had drafted a short list of directors, including Danny Boyle and Martin Scorsese, with whom he'd like to work. I like Stone stuff, but social satire is not his forte. It was then an issue of how the script could be improved, says Pressman. The movie's progress then fell into the same slump that had plagued the project for years. DiCaprio and Stone couldn't agree on the film's direction. So they had many meetings together trying to figure out if they could do it together, Pressman says. I wanted the movie back, she says, explaining her silence. I never actually felt like Leo would make that movie, because it was such a crazy thing for him to do. Lionsgate eventually agreed to give her the project back, with Bale playing the lead, under the agreement that her budget would not exceed $10 million and that she'd cast recognizable talent, Chloe Sevigny, Jared Leto, Reese Witherspoon, and Willem Dafoe among them, in the supporting roles. Lionsgate wouldn't speak to me for 4 months, Harron says with a laugh. American Psycho eventually began shooting in March last year, in Toronto, Canada, against a backdrop of protest from an activist group called Concerned Canadians Against Violence in Entertainment. Apparently, local police had found a copy of American Psycho in the home of a convicted murderer called Paul Bernardo, though a recent article suggests it actually belonged to his wife. None of these protesters had read the script, much less seen the film, and Harron found herself again forced to live down the book's reputation. There are so many films that are much more violent, Harron continues. My film is upsetting, because it doesn't offer that kind of resolution. With Hollywood films, people want to be told that the good will win out. The society is so obsessed with surface, that as long as Patrick obeys all these rules about wearing the right suit and going to the right restaurant and being seen with the right women, no one is going to look any further, Harron says. We were able to use French cosmetics, Harron says, referring to her uphill battle to get product approvals. From the moment he acquired the book's rights in 1992, Pressman was determined not to finance a film that was too offensive. I felt that the only way to stop it from being really exploitative was, to effect, a kind of cool detachment, she says. It's about the kind of film you want to make. It was disturbing, because it's deliberately unerotic, says Harron, who ultimately trimmed the offending images in order to gain an R rating.